Hi YouTube, and welcome to another video about some work I'm going to be doing on the Campervan today. Now, for those of you that have been following the channel, you may have spotted a few videos coming up over the past. Quite recently I've been putting a new panel down here of some switches. It's just allowed me to control a few extra devices. And this is kind of another bit I'm going to be doing to the van now. It's going to be centering mainly around our Coolbox and how we're going to make it more efficient, run quieter, and kind of get a bit more professional kind of use out of it, a bit closer to a compressor fridge. It still will have its drawbacks, and I'll talk about those. But it's really going to improve it for us and make it run a bit better. Now, for those of you that have seen the videos I've done on this Coolbox in the past, which actually are quite popular, and they're not as popular as I thought they would be. I did talk about kind of the pros and cons of having a Coolbox over a compressor fridge. Now, compressor fridges normally wins hand down every time. They use less electricity, they're more efficient, they keep your food cooler, but there are downsides. One, they are a lot more expensive. You're looking at kind of spending around about £400 to have a decent compressor fridge. You're also then losing space, because you will have to lose some space in your kitchen units. And the main reason we went for the Coolbox was simply because it allows us to use all these cupboards on the kitchen units for storage. Sometimes we can be away for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. We've been to Europe several times in a row now and been over for kind of a month at a time. And we eat fresh most of the time, so not having that fridge in there doesn't impact us as much as you might think. Having the storage is more beneficial to us. Plus it's cheaper, which always helps. So that was kind of my reasoning behind putting the putting the Coolbox in here, sorry. But at the same time, it'd be nice to make it run a bit better and a bit more professional, and get a bit closer to the feel you get with a compressor fridge. So today I'm going to be fitting two components that are going to help us improve that. Now, the first component here is a DC motor speed controller. Now, these are quite simple devices. It looks quite complicated if you look at it, but that's simply because there's a lot of oversurge protection built in. There's a lot of safety features built in. But essentially what it's going to do, by me fitting this rotary control here somewhere, it will allow me to turn down the Coolbox, turn down the voltage going to the Coolbox, which basically means it's going to run slower, so it's not going to work as well, but it's also going to be a hell of a lot quieter. So what it means is during the day we can have this thing flat out, and then when we go to bed, at the moment we have to switch it off, but with this what we can do is we can leave it switched on at a lesser power, which might not continue cooling, but it might just maintain the temperature the fridge is already out, or the Coolbox is already out. So real simple device. Now, you could just fit a variable resistor and do this, which would be a component that is not much bigger than this part here. The problem with those is they don't actually save you any electricity. Even though you turn the Coolbox down, the resistor just eats up the extra power in the form of heat that would normally be going into the Coolbox. So by fitting this, as well as you being able to turn it down, you also save electricity. You're not using as much power from the battery, you're not putting such a demand on it. And Coolboxes can run anything up to 6 amps an hour, which is a lot of electricity when you have to run off a battery. So by cutting this down at night, or periods when it's not so needed, maybe on a cold overcast day, we can really save some energy by doing that. So that's going to improve it massively. So this basically is a DC motor speed controller. The next component we're going to be fitting is a thermostat. Now, this component here is a lot smaller because it's simply a microchip and a relay and this temperature gauge which hangs off it. And what this will do is this will allow me to dial in a set temperature, so that when the Coolbox gets to that set temperature, it cuts off, and when it goes above that set temperature, it cuts back on. So what essentially it's going to work in practice, if I set it to 8 degrees, it will probably stop cooling at around about 8 degrees, and it will probably start cooling again around about 9.5. And you can set it to anything you want with this LCD screen and these buttons. So it's basically going to allow us to have a Coolbox which can maintain a set temperature. If we set it to, we want it to maintain 8 8 degrees Celsius. It should maintain that. It also allows to save electricity when the power supply isn't needed so much. Now, I get what you're saying. You could say, why, if you fit in a thermostat, do you need the speed controller? Because you are going to be saving electricity when the Coolbox is switching itself on and off when it gets to the desired temperature. The simple fact of me fitting this speed controller here is because if we want to leave it on at night, if we were just to use the thermostat, it would be kicking on and off at its full power, which would wake us up. So by me fitting the speed controller, we know we can turn it right down, and when we're sleeping we won't have that interfering with us. So it should get us quieter running, save us electricity, and it should give us a more set desired temperature, allowing us to kind of monitor how well the Coolbox is running. I've also got a set of thermometer or digital thermometer gauge down here now, which I fitted around about the same time as I did with those switches in those other videos I was talking about earlier. That allows us to monitor the temperature of the fridge and the temperature of our hot water. So that's made a massive difference already, and that's really improved it. But this side here is going to give us more automation, make it a bit more professional and make it work a bit better. So I'm going to kind of stop filming now and just film little clips and how you do it. But essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fitting these to the power supply that goes to the Coolbox. It doesn't really matter which way we fit them around. If you look at the speed controller, we have 4 connectors at the top. We have a positive and a negative, which would be the power supply from the battery, and then we have a positive and negative, which will be the power supply onto the fridge, onto the Coolbox. So it's a really easy thing to set up. This switch here just needs to be mounted somewhere so we can adjust the speed. And this one here is very much a similar setup. We've got a ground, which is essentially going to be our neutral. On the battery we have a power supply, and then we have 2 ones that say KO and K1. We're essentially going to be taking a live feed off one of those. That's our relay. We're probably going to cut our power supply and put it on one and then link it off from the other, to get this to intercept it as well. It doesn't matter which way these go around, which one goes onto the electric first, it makes no difference. I'm going to set that up now, do a few kind of bits, talk you through it, annotate stuff where I need to, and I'll come back to you a bit later and we'll just see how well it runs. So guys, it's the next day and I've actually finished most of the work on this Coolbox. I fitted the 2 items down. I'm just going to take a few close-up shots now, spin the camera around. I'm just going to show you kind of each component, how it's wired up, just so if you want to do this yourself, you kind of know how to put them in, kind of the connections on them and how to kind of fit them down there. So I'll spin you around and we'll just quickly go through it. So guys, this is the setup in the Coolbox under the kind of storage cupboard here of the 2 components I've fitted. It's a bit messy at the moment. I need to do a bit more kind of work on it to tidy it up. I've got my 2 extraction fans down here. I've always had these. They just simply help to take the heat away from this kind of storage box here under this flap, just to make the Coolbox work a bit better. It does get quite warm under here otherwise. So this one on here on the left is the kind of temperature controller. This is the thermostat. This controls when it cuts in and out due to the temperature, and this big bit here on the right is the speed controller. That's going to allow me to adjust the speed. They're simply fitted by these simple black screws at the moment. They're still quite loose. I do need to improve them slightly, but it's just good enough at the moment to demonstrate to you how they're going to kind of fit. Obviously this thermostat is on its side, but it's better that way because the cables fit better. So how this is set up, it's quite simple. We've got a live and a neutral on these 2 bottom connectors here. Now that is simply a live and a neutral off the battery. That just supplies power to the unit. Up here we have a relay, and this is controlled via the thermostat, via these kind of microprocessors and things like that. But it's going to open and shut this connection here on these top 2. It's going to break the circuit. So what I've done is this cable here is simply the neutral that would normally go to the Coolbox, and I've cut that and wired it via this relay. That means that when the thermostat opens and shuts its relay, it's going to be able to break the circuit and basically switch off the Coolbox. How I've done it though is I've simply got a permanent live that's fused, obviously, go into the speed controller. The neutral goes via this thermostat, then into the speed controller. So the thermostat is going to be able to switch the whole thing on and off, and then when it's switched on, depending on the temperature in the Coolbox, the speed controller is then going to take over, and it's going to allow me to adjust the speed. So the speed controller is really simple to install. You simply have a live and negative on the top two terminals, and then you have a live and a negative on the bottom two terminals. Top terminals here, the way I've got it, I've actually got this thing the wrong way around as well. They are simply the DC power supply, the 12-volt supply, via a fuse and this thermostat, and the bottom ones here, they are simply the power supply, then go into both the fan and the Coolbox. Now on the speed controller, we do have a overload protection, over current protection. That was turned down too low when I first got it, so I've had to adjust that to about 7 amps to stop this from cutting out. What I'll do now is I'll just switch it on so you can hear how loud it is. Now, I've not installed the adjustment yet. This is simply a potentiometer which allows you to control the speed. It does have a black knob that goes on here, and I do need to install this somewhere in a suitable place, but at the moment it's going to be good enough to show you. So I'm just going to switch the Coolbox on now. You can see that thermostat comes in. Now it's coming at the moment, it's saying it's 17 degrees in there, so I've set this to 8 degrees. It's basically going to cut the Coolbox off at 8 degrees and cut it back on. Probably something about 9.5 or something like that to keep it within that range. The Coolbox is on now. The temperature is turned down quite low, so this fan isn't actually spinning at the moment unless I help it. And you should be able to hear, if I stop talking now, how quiet that Coolbox is. And this is the kind of setting we'd have it on if we were to use it at night. Especially if I shut this flap down on there as well. Now if I turn this up, you can just see the difference in the temperature, or sorry, in the noise. So you can see that's making a difference to how loud it is, and this here is going to be able to switch it on and off automatically for us. You can see the Coolbox is cooling down already. It's dropping the temperature quite quickly, so we're down to almost 17 degrees. So I'm going to go now and get a ice cube from the van, just so I can demonstrate to you how this is going to cut off when it gets to a desired temperature. So I'll go and grab one of those and I'll be back with you in a minute. Right, I've just popped to the fridge, and I've actually got some cold blocks to test it with. I'll just turn that down so it's not so noisy. We can see it's only literally been on for 1 minute, and we've already gone down to 15.4, so they aren't as bad as people make out, these cool boxes. They are just a bit thirsty, really. So 2 simple cold blocks. What I'm going to do is I'll just turn it up enough so you can hear it, actually, because you want to be able to hear it cutting out. Now, the thermometer in here is nothing more advanced than a little probe like that. It just comes off the controller, as you can see there. I'm just going to put some ice blocks on these to cool them down. There you go, so you can see the fridge is actually, or the cool box is cut off now, so that's going to keep it maintained at that temperature. As soon as it gets below 8 degrees, it's going to cut off. If I now remove these, should start creeping up again. Should come in around about 9.5 roughly, something like that. You can adjust all this, so if you want it to come in a bit lower, There you go, so it's coming in about 10 degrees. You can adjust the cutoff if you want it to come in sooner, so that might be a bit high at the moment. I'm probably going to lower that to about 9, and you can do that by adjusting all the settings on these simple buttons here. Yeah, so working really well. So I'm quite happy how that worked actually. It just shows with a bit of extra electronics fitted to these, you can improve them a lot over what they normally are. Both those components in there cost me ranging from about £8 to £10. So for £15 to £20, you can really improve the operation of these Coolboxes. What I'll do is I'll put both of the components I bought in the description if you want to purchase them. They are affiliate links, but when I research them, they are the ones with a kind of the better reviews for kind of the costs. So I'd recommend kind of looking at those if you want to purchase them. Not hard to fit at all. It literally took me about probably about half an hour, 45 minutes to fit these the other day, and the most of the problem I had was I didn't really leave myself enough slack in the cable to the Coolbox, so I had to do a bit of fitting under the units to get a bit more slack in the cable. So not too bad to fit at all. Hopefully they'll improve our Coolbox, make it a bit quieter for when we're away and a bit more efficient, and get a bit closer to the professional kind of feel of an actual compressor fridge. I'm hoping it's going to lower our power consumption and also make it a bit safe for the fridge there, keep that constant temperature that we're happier leaving kind of more critical kind of food items in there that need to be kept at a maintained temperature. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one in the future.